Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another car video. If you guys are watching this, that means I uploaded it. I also considered talking about this during a live stream, but I had to run some errands today. It's Friday. The Aretha Franklin Respect movie with Jennifer Hudson just came out today. Get your tickets, go see that. I'm gonna go see that this weekend. I'm gonna review it, definitely. And I had to run some errands, so I'm in my car, obviously. This is my mask right here, just ignore that. It's hanging on my window or whatever. We've been talking on Discord for like the last 3 hours about this dude that is a DoorDash. I believe DoorDash was the service. The DoorDash driver that put the note, he wrote somebody a note. This was a motherfucking habitual line stepper, a habitual non-tipper. And he wrote a note to the person and he posted on social media, and it started this whole hullabaloo about tipping and tipping culture. I feel like this is a conversation that I've seen a few times go around. And I just want to say, like, bro, tip your waitress. Like, in the eternal words of Lafayette, may he rest in peace on True Blood, tip your waitress. Tip your motherfucking waitress. Tip your server, okay? Tip your fucking delivery person. Tip your Uber Eats driver. Tip your DoorDash driver. If you can't afford to fucking tip them, you cannot afford the service. People are really entitled, and it's really fun. Oh shit, am I in the wrong lane? Hope I'm not. People are really entitled, and it's really funny to me to see people calling service workers entitled for wanting to get paid and wanting to get tipped. Like I'm just gonna say, like, I'm somebody, some of you guys know this, I've talked about this. I've worked as a server, I've worked in the service industry, I've worked in restaurants. And it's very interesting to see people try to, like, number one, people try to absolve themselves of the responsibility of using services that they know abuse employees, okay? Don't try to be like, oh, well, you need to take that to DoorDash. You need to take that to your corporation. We all know that DoorDash and Uber Eats and Grubhub and all these services don't pay drivers the way that they should. So the drivers, they don't need to come to us and ask us to tip them. They need to band together and, you know, go to the corporation because they don't know what my finances are, The same thing applies to the service worker, but you guys have no compassion and empathy for service workers because punching down on service workers is really fucking easy for everyone, and we treat service workers like fucking shit in this fucking country because of fucking classism, okay? The exact same excuse of, like, your finances are not up to par, that could also be exactly the same for the service worker. The vast majority of service workers and people that drive Uber Eats and shit like that, they're paid less than a minimum wage. A lot of these people can't afford to go to DoorDash with their complaints and get fired. They're not allowed to unionize, and this is what they have to do to survive, just like you. So don't try to make it seem like these people are entitled for trying to fucking hustle and make money just like you. If you don't have the money to fucking tip your waitress, if you don't have the money to tip your server, if you don't have the money to tip your delivery person, then you can't afford the service. People are really entitled, acting like these services are fucking I'm pronouncing it wrong, but, or maybe I'm not, an inalienable right protected by the fucking Constitution. No, these are luxury services. These are luxury services, okay? If you can't afford to have your fucking food brought to your house and to tip the person that provided that service to you when you know that they're not making a living wage, you don't get to absolve yourself of responsibility and be like, well, they need to take that to that corporation. You guys know I don't use Amazon. I go out of my way to not use Amazon because I know for a fact that they mistreat the workers. Okay, it would be totally fucked up of me to continue to use Amazon, and then when I see the warehouse workers complain and be like, well, they need to take that up with Jeff Bezos, not me. No, as somebody that uses a service that I know mistreats workers, I'm also complicit. Hold on. Yeah, I'm back. So I see people being like, well, what about people that are housebound? What about people that, you know, they can't, for whatever reason, they can't drive or they can't go to pick up their food? That's absolutely true. There are people that cannot leave the house to go pick up or get their own food. There are people that are housebound. There are people that are differently abled and they cannot drive. There's people that have chronic illnesses and they are housebound. I know people like this myself. However, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, this is not public infrastructure. This is not some type of free service for people that can't leave their house. There are services for that. Meals on Wheels is a service for that. There are social services for that. There are church programs for that. There's CSAs and urban agriculture programs and things like that for that. It is not fair for you to treat the delivery workers of DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and whatever else like it's your public infrastructure if you physically or for whatever reason, you can't leave your house, and to say, well, I don't have to tip them, or I can't tip them because I can't afford it and I can't leave my house. If you can't afford it, then that's not the service for you. There are services out there that are low cost and or free. These are not those type of services. These are luxury services. That's why they're so fucking expensive. That's why they mark up your fucking your meals, your food by fucking 2 times, 3 times as much as you would pay if you would go pick it up yourself. And I've also seen people being like, well, I pay the restaurant, so why do I have to tip the server? The delivery person. You're tipping the delivery person for a totally different service. You're paying the restaurant for the cost of your food. So that means the chef that prepared your food, the actual ingredients for your food, okay? The prep work. Having somebody then go pick up your food, get in their car, their personal vehicle, and drive it to your house is a totally different service that you have to pay for. Like, people really want services, but they don't want to pay. If you cannot afford to tip, then you cannot afford the service. And that's okay. It's okay if you can't afford the service. That's fine. But stop trying to put the onus of responsibility on the most likely poor person that is being paid under minimum wage. Like, you don't have to fucking tip them. That shit is foul. Like, it's classist as fuck. It's cruel. It's fucking malicious. And as somebody that worked as a fucking server that has been not tipped by people that feel like it's their right to fucking go out and eat even though they can't afford it, but they don't want to tip their fucking server. Also, let me introduce you guys to a concept called gratuity included. About 5-6 years ago in the mid 2010s, gratuity included was a movement. I will include links in the description box like I always do, where people were really trying to push, because I also see people saying like, well, I shouldn't have to tip because servers should be paid a living wage from jump. I agree with that. Servers should be paid a living wage from jump. Servers shouldn't have to rely on tips to survive and to get ahead. However, let me tell you guys, a lot of you guys know, like, I have worked in urban agriculture, I've worked in food equity. This is a big thing for me. Like, let me tell you guys, a few years back, there was this whole movement called Gratuity Included, where a lot of restaurant owners were in fact trying to start paying their servers a living wage so that people didn't have to tip. And people revolted against that shit, and the movement ended up dying out, because guess what? When you don't tip people, and the restaurant has to pay them a living wage, that means the price of your food goes up. Y'all already talked about something. You don't even have the money to tip. Are you gonna have the money to pay 20% more for your food off top to ensure that your fucking server or your delivery driver, your delivery person gets paid a living wage with benefits? People revolted against that shit. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to pay. And especially after the pandemic, it sort of ended up dying out because people didn't want to fucking pay, and they weren't coming back to the restaurants that did it. Restaurants are notoriously expensive to run, and this is a service. This is a service. It's not a right. It's a privilege. It's a luxury. If you can't afford it, you just can't afford it. That's fine. Like, it's been plenty of fucking times that I've had to fucking living in a food desert, a food apartheid, had to walk to the fucking corner store and buy fucking cereal and a gallon of fucking milk and eat cereal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a week because I couldn't fucking afford shit else. And no, that's not fucking okay. That's not okay. Food deserts and food apartheid situations for especially Black Americans is a huge issue in the United States. But people just want to pass the buck and fucking kick the can down the road to people that are poorer than them, people that are in a worse off situation than them, service workers, because we routinely and we historically treat service workers like shit. And then when people come up with alternatives, again, movements like Gratuity Included that will require you to pay more off top to ensure that your server or your delivery person is able to make a living wage and receive health benefits and stuff like that, y'all don't want to do that either, because then y'all say it's too expensive. You want services, but you don't want to pay. You want services, but you don't want to pay. Service workers are not your fucking slaves that can work for you for free. Service workers are not your slaves. Servers that work in restaurants are not your slaves. Waitresses and waiters are not your fucking slaves. This is a problem with domestic workers as well. Domestic workers, nannies, housekeepers, babysitters, these people are not your fucking slaves. People think that just because this person is quote unquote lower than them on the food chain, they could treat this person like shit and not fucking pay them. And they do that, and I see people saying like, well, he shouldn't have posted the note online. People drag motherfuckers on social media all day long, and y'all kiki, and y'all think it's fucking funny. This shit struck a nerve because a lot of y'all feel like you're better than people in service positions, and you shouldn't have to tip. And it's classist as fuck. Well, they should get a better job then. They should take it up with the corporation then. Why are they attacking me? I'm too broke to pay them. If you're too broke to use the service, then don't use the service. Y'all are entitled. Y'all are calling people that want to get paid for providing a service for you, getting in the car in the rain and the snow and the sleet and the heat, driving, which is dangerous as fuck, to bring you your fucking food. That's a service, and you don't want to pay them. You don't want to pay them. You can't afford the service. Don't do it. Stop trying to, and for people that's trying to like pass the buck down the road to the restaurant and say, well, the restaurant should just pay them a living wage. Yes, restaurants should pay people a living wage, but that also means that the overall cost of your food is gonna go up, gratuity included, and people don't want to pay that shit either. You want a service, but you don't want to pay. Don't use the service. Stop calling service workers entitled for wanting to get paid for their labor. They are not slaves. Poor people, lower class people are not your slaves. If you can't afford this shit, you can't afford it. And now all of a sudden people got morals and a conscience talking about it's not right to put that note on social media and put people on blast. Y'all kiki over that shit all day. You don't like it because you got put on blast for being a cheap bastard that don't tip. And if you're poor, you in the same boat as them. Stop trying to use services that you can't afford. These are luxury services. They're privileges. They are not protected. And again, for the people that are in fact really housebound, can't drive, can't afford to leave their house and get food, there are in fact Meals on Wheels, all type of free social services. Uber Eats, DoorDash, and all that shit is not that kind of service. This is a luxury service where it's understood that in exchange for the service of you getting your food brought to you, you're going to tip. That is service etiquette. Same thing with waiters and waitresses. If you can't afford it, don't go. And again, for the people that say, well, it's not on me, it's on the restaurant owner to pay them a living wage, that's fine. But again, that means look into the gratuity included movement, which died because it made the overall cost of the food go up and people didn't want to pay. Pay Yo Waitress. Servers and lower class people that are predominantly Black Americans are not your fucking slaves.